So, to begin our lesson today, does everyone recall what being in irons means? Being in irons is when your boat points directly into the wind and your sails luff nonstop. It's a very easy way to stop your boat, and today we're going to learn how to 1. To be able to stop and start your boat by going in and out of irons. 2. How to be able to fully stop your boat by holding it in irons. And 3. How to do so comfortably in wind conditions up to 10 knots. Okay, so first we need to put our boat into irons. To do so, we need to firstly go onto a close hauled course, which is about 45 degrees to the wind. And then you need to head up some more, directly into the wind, and release your main and your jib, which is going to look something like this. However, when you do go on irons, you also need to be very careful, because with the jib and the mainsail luffing around, you can get hit by the boom or even the jib sheets, and it does hurt when they hit you. So you have to be sure that when you go on irons that there's a lot of communication between your skipper and your crew so that you understand what's going to happen. Okay. Now, for the second step, and probably the more difficult of the two, we're going to learn how to stay in irons. So, when you successfully put your boat into irons, it tends to drift out of irons on a close hauled course, which can be extremely annoying in various situations. However, there are several ways you can keep your boat in irons. The most effective of these methods is you can get your crew to push out the boom on the side over the side of the boat that's closest to the wind. And if you're a little confused by this explanation, just like look at this drawing. So say I'm drifting out of irons on a starboard tack. So here's the sail. So what I want to do is I want to get my crew to push out the boom over the starboard side of the boat. And can anyone tell me why that would be? That I would want to push the boom over that side of the boat? Here's a hint. It has something to do with the direction that the wind pushes the sails and also the boat.
It'll like swing you back in irons.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to use this model to just demonstrate it. So, say I'm slipping out of irons, like right here. What I want to do, so say I'm slipping out of irons onto this side, and I push my boom out over the starboard side of the boat. What it's going to do is the wind is going to push it back and go back into irons, which like the irons is right here. Okay, so it's just like, so you had the right answer. So after that, does anyone know what you would do if you were slipping out of irons on a port tack? No, if the answer to slipping, like when you said the answer to slipping out of irons on a starboard tack would be to push your mainsail and your boom out to starboard, what would be the answer to slipping out of irons on a port tack?
Push it to the port side of the boat.
Can you say that again?
Push the boom to the port side of the boat.
Exactly. That's great. Okay, so, and to make sure we know what to do, can I get a volunteer to help me demonstrate the skill? Thank you, Hannah. Okay, so Hannah, please stand right in front of me. Hannah is going to be the wind, and Hannah is going to be my crew, and Sarah is going to be the wind. So say that we're slipping out of irons on a starboard tack, so move over a little bit, so you know, to your left. So what would you do as my crew to ensure that we go back into irons?
I would push the boom that way.
Okay, out to?
Starboard.
Great. Okay, thank you, Anna. Now that we know how to keep our boat into irons, we want to discuss how to get your boat out of irons. Okay. When you want to get, here, let me go to the next slide. So when you want to get your boat out of irons, you obviously want to do it a bit more quickly and gracefully If the solution to keeping your boat in irons is to push out the boom to the side of the boat that's closest to the wind, what do you think that would the solution be coming out of irons be in concern with like pushing your boom?
Push it to the opposite side.
Exactly. So you want to push it to the side of the boat that's furthest from the wind. So so to get out of irons, the crew pushes the boom onto the side of the boat that's furthest from the wind, and the skipper helps the crew by pushing their rudder onto the side that the mainsail is on. And I'm going to show you how, like, what I mean by that using this demonstration. So if I want to get out of irons onto a port tack, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my crew to push out the boom on the port side, and also get my skipper to push the rudder out, like, you see that? Like the rudder out to push it towards the mainsail, because as the wind pushes the boat back, it both pushes it in this direction, but it's also going backwards, which means that the rudder acts differently. It acts as the opposite than when you're going forward, so it actually pushes it in this direction and helps it go on back into a close on course. Okay, and then after we get out of irons onto this close out course, the crew and the skipper want to communicate with each other and get ready to get back on a close out course by accelerating. And with this acceleration, the skipper and the crew to communicate together, and as one, sheet in both their mainsail and their jib. And can I get a volunteer to demonstrate how we would get out of irons again? How about you? Sure. Oh, Hannah? Very good. Okay, so Hannah's going to stand right in this slide is. So Hannah's going to stand right in front of me, and Sarah again is going to be the wind. So if we want to get out of irons on a port tack, what would we do? So
I push it out this way.
you push it out, yeah, to port, and then I'm going to turn my
And
rudder
you push your rudder.
towards you. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
Oh no,
speed's
wait,
going
sorry.
that way.
It's going this way,
Yeah.
so the rudder is going, and that's because. Remember why? Or does anyone remember why we do that? We push the rudder and the sail out that way?
Because it acts as the opposite as if you were going forward.
Exactly. So it helps us actually push towards the way that we want to go. And actually, if you can stay here for a moment, after we're done of doing that and we're back to our close out course, what we want to do is we want to communicate with each other and get ready to accelerate. So Hannah, are you ready to sheet in?
Yeah.
Okay, great. 3, 2, 1. Okay, and then we're back on our close out course. Thank you, Hannah. Okay, so to review, using this model boat, can you show me, if I'm on a close out course right now, and Sarah, again, is the wind, what do I want to do to go on into irons?
Push it out towards closest to the wind.
So, but I want to go, I'm on a close out course right now. So
Damon Alto Bland to the office, please. Damon Alto Bland to the office.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah. So head up, and is there anything else I need to do?
Let your sails off.
Yeah, great. And you have to remember that that's the right answer, but also remember that there needs to be a lot of communication between the crew and the skipper at this point, just to make sure that everyone's ready for what's going to happen. Okay, so now that I'm in irons, how do I stay in irons?
Body weight.
Okay, yeah, that's one way. And also, one way using your mainsails.
Push it out closest to the wind.
Yeah, so if I'm drifting out on a port tack or a starboard port tack, I would push it out to port. They're going to get knocked over. And also, if I'm getting pushed out onto a starboard tack, I push it over to starboard. So you're right. So when I do want to get out of irons, and I want to get out of irons quickly and back into my close out course, what do I do?
Communicate with your skipper.
Yep.
And crew.
And then, do you remember what I do with my mainsail and my rudder? Anyone?
Push them out to the side further away from the wind.
Okay, yeah. So if I'm slipping up port.
Push your rudder towards your mainsail.
Yeah.
And then you sheet your main and your jib in together.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Thank you. Okay. So now that we're done of we understand how to do irons. Why don't we play a little game? Okay, so to play this game, what we're gonna do is I'm going to be the wind, and I'll stand probably here, and you're gonna be the boats, and you're gonna use your arms as mainsails, and you're gonna start at that wall back there. So next, I'm going to call it how far and what tack I want you to sail. And you're going to have to sail that distance. So if I say sail 5 feet forward on a starboard tack, so I'm the wind, like let's pretend that this board is the wind. I say sail 5 feet forward on a starboard tack. You're going to want to go just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll move these desks. Okay, so, and then after I do this, after you reach that distance, I'm going to ask you to go on irons, and we'll practice stopping, staying, and accelerating out of irons using your arms as the mainsail. Okay, and then we'll just do this until someone reaches me, and whoever reaches me first will get some candy, because everyone loves sugar.
You don't really have to.
Yes, I do.
You have to.
Yeah, too.
One
So there, I'm going to pause the video for a minute while we get set up. Sail 3 steps forward on a starboard tack. And I'm the wind. Okay, great. Now go into irons. Okay, yes, Baby's got it. I'm not, maybe Hannah. Hannah's got it. And then, so now that you're in irons, you're slipping out of irons onto a port tack. What do you do to right yourself?
push it this way.
Okay,
so
great.
That way.
Yeah, you push it that
Port.
way. So port. You push it over the port side of your boat. Okay, so can you accelerate out of irons onto a starboard tack now? And then you're going to accelerate. Okay, accelerate, and then step forward. Sorry, I'm gonna switch that up because I
Should we
just
tack?
realized there's just yes, we should tack onto a port tack and then step. Let's say 3 feet.
Communicate with your skipper.
Oh, I win.
Oh,
No.
I was intending for that to win, but maybe wins.